sometimes even policy decisions, how these patients are going to be cared, despite the fact they may be adults. And now we have started now even small kids also who are getting admitted in the COVID hospital. So at this time, in the evening, these teaching sessions which are related to newborn ventilation will add to the knowledge of a lot of people which you are able to reach, like more than 300 pediatricians all across UP and outside UP. And my advice to everyone would be that this newborn ventilation is a teamwork. This cannot be done by individuals. It has to be a team of nurses and the junior staff and senior people who have to get together. The knowledge is one part, the skills and becoming competent to deal with a newborn baby in which you have to do ventilation is altogether different art and practice. But we need to know the science, the knowledge, and this is a good platform for that. And over the years, I have realized that you can do with less ventilation rather than doing more with ventilation, and trying to improve antenatal care, get involved in intrapartum care. And then as Vineet and his group keeps on teaching everyone, improve golden hour care for the baby. And if you are able to also use antenatal corticosteroids in women who are delivering preterm, I think you have won more than half the battle for doing newborn ventilation. By doing ventilation, we do more harms to the baby rather than doing good many times. And I get worried while I see babies who land up with infection, despite the fact we are giving surfactant and doing invasive ventilation on the baby. Many babies, we forget that we need to provide holistic care and prevent even screening for retinopathy or prematurity. So that is another big problem which is happening while we start saving small babies with oxygen therapy in a lot of units. So we need to know everything about newborn ventilation, about acute deterioration which may happen, how you will put a chest tube in a baby who has pneumothorax, and how you are going to work collectively with your obstetrician, with your nurses. And a big part which many of us forget as a leader who is running a NICU, there is huge amount which has to be towards the equipment which you use, about the upkeep and maintenance of equipment which has to be done. Because faulty equipment will do more harm. And at the time while you require, those equipments may fail. And even many times, many ventilators may show you that they are delivering this much FiO2 and it may not be true. So unless you become skilled and you have a team which is able to think through and keep in mind a big picture of what good you will do while doing ventilation on the baby with the harm which is there, it is a double-edged sword. And then if you are doing only non-invasive ventilation, you must have a mechanism of transporting a baby somewhere where higher modes of ventilation can be done. So I wish all of you a great learning, but keep in mind it is without obstetrician, it is impossible. We have to work with them, convince them, they have to involve you from the time the baby is born. And then the advice which has to be given for intrapartum care and antenatal care cannot be forgotten in this era. I wish you all good learning. And I'm so happy to see that more than 200 people have joined, and great learning on this platform. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your blessings, sir. Thank you so much. And it's a privilege to introduce today's moderator, Dr. Ravi Khanna from Bareilly. So Dr. Ravi Khanna is an MBBS 1979 batch and a gold medalist to boot. He is MD, BJ Medical College, has 31 years of experience and is presently the director and the owner of Vatsalya Hospital, which is NBC and NNF and NABH accredited. And Dr. Ravi Khanna has a lot of experience. He has special interest in neonatal intensive care. And welcome Dr. Ravi Khanna to take over from me.
Okay.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, I'm Dr. Ravi Khanna. I welcome you all. Good evening to you. Thank you, Dr. Derari sir, for joining us, giving us your blessings and advices. I welcome you all for today's session. I represent you. I am the voice of a common pediatricians. A common pediatrician means the one who are looking after OPDs. They are also looking after patients in the general ward. They are also looking at the patients in the PICU, NICU, attending calls, and at the same time, they're trying to improve new knowledge. They want to learn new skills, and with the limited resources and the limited time at their disposal, they want to do good in the professional field. I represent those pediatricians. That's my voice for them. At the onset, I would like to thank Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, Dr. Shalabh Agrawal, Dr. Piyali Bhattacharya, Dr. Om Shankar Chaurasiya, who have given me an opportunity to be a moderator of this session. At the same time, I have special thanks for Dr. Vineet Kumar, who is the man behind the main show, and he is a Vicharak, the advisor, Vicharak for the UPIAP. And that makes a lot of difference for a sanstha to have a good Vicharak. They tell you how to lead forward. So let's start. We have two speakers today. Dr. Ashish Prakash and we have Dr. Amit Upadhyay. First of all, I will introduce Dr. Ashish Prakash. His talk is the first one, and later I will go for Dr. Amit Upadhyay. Dr. Ashish Prakash, he has done his MBBS from AIIMS, MD from AIIMS, DNB and Fellowship Neonatology from Sydney. He has 30 years of experience. He's head neonatology Yashoda Hospital, Ghaziabad. He's Oxford Professor, head of the department, Subharati Medical College, Meerut. He has got to his grade 20 publications. His special interest lies in neonatology. So, Dr. Ashish, you have got 30 minutes to give your talk, to illuminate us, to tell us how to go about it, because it's the most important thing when you go for the ventilation, all said and done. As Dr. Derari sir said, if you don't care for the infections, if you don't care for the standard SOPs, so all the king's horses, all the king's men, the baby doesn't get well. So over to you, Dr. Ashish, sir, and let us hear you.
Before Dr. Ashish, before you start, I have to run the poll for your session today. Everyone, please, this is mandatory to reply to. And all the hosts, my request for you is to do not end the poll. If you want to close it from the top line of the window. When you see end poll, do not press it. Thank you.
At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Derari, and it gives me the feeling of my days at All India Institute when I would make presentations and Dr. Derari as a teacher would be sitting there. So I am having the same feeling of presenting as a junior resident in Department of Pediatrics. Good evening, sir. I am so humbled to have you as giving the opening remarks before my talk. Thank you, sir.
All the best, Ashish. Listening to you.
Thank you, sir.
Someone has stopped the poll. Please do not stop it. I am relaunching it. Please do not end the poll, please. Who have already put it, please again do it. Dr. Ashish, you can start, just close that from the top and then you can start sharing the screen.
Good evening, everyone. Today I'll be talking about care of ventilated baby. And as we know, a successful management of a baby on ventilator requires combined efforts of everyone involved. And combined effort is a combined effort actually means a team effort. So we can say together if we work, we will always win. That is the spirit of a team approach. And when we are ventilating the baby, there is this baby who's ventilated. There is a whole lot of hardware and software, and there are things beyond it. Believe me, the most important in this whole equation is the baby and the things beyond the hardware and software. So these practical aspects are more important than the hardware and the software. The place of pride in the hardware, of course, goes to the ventilator, and then the other monitors, other machinery, and then comes clinical assessment, bedside observations by the doctors and the nurses. Of course, very important, the nutritional management, which reduces the duration of respiratory support and complications. And what is required is a wholesome care of all the organ systems beyond optimizing ventilation. And not to forget to have systems to prevent infections in these babies, as very rightly Professor Deorari also emphasized. So beyond this software and hardware, primarily or first what comes to our mind is nurses. In these days of recession, believe me, the best investment I would say is invest in your nurses. Give them continuous training, update their knowledge, involve them in quality improvement efforts, and more than anything else, learn to listen to them. They are your eyes when you're absent. And we could actually start thinking about the concept of clinical nurse practitioner in our country, which is prevalent elsewhere. Again, as a doctor, you have to work as a good team leader. You have to be involved in ongoing teaching of the team. You have to audit your deaths, your complications. You have to look at your own outcomes and compare them with the other units and find out where you are lacking. You should be involved in quality initiatives. Only then will the care of the newborns improve. You should be collaborating with other units. You should be having knowledge sharing with other units. And of course, even if you are in private sector, even if you are in a small place, research should be part and parcel of your management of nurseries. And very aptly in today's session, Dr. Ravi Khanna is moderating, who himself has done many innovations. Dr. Girish sir was at the beginning of, he was the one who set the ball rolling of this session. He has done many innovations. I must emphasize, we have to find answers to our own problems, no one else will. And again, we should resist over-dependence on gadgets. Otherwise, we will create a whole cadre of young doctors who only know about gadgets and do not have much clinical sense. So coming back to the ongoing supportive care, the list almost looks like almost a pre-lockdown shopping list that I had in my hand. The clinical monitoring of vital parameters, looking at saturation and graphics, good old X-ray, fixing the tube, venous access, thinking of the baby's pain and sedating him, humidification of the gases, physiotherapy, suction, and very importantly, developmentally supportive care of these vulnerable newborns and parental counseling. Now, for clinical assessment, of course, we have to have a keen eye, look at the chest wall, look at the entry, look at the air entry and adventitious sounds, and look at whether there is any asymmetry between spontaneous breathing in the machine. A baby who has rapid shallow breathing with recessions certainly has some air hunger. There is increased work of breathing, and this requires increasing the support on the ventilator. Look at the precordium, look at if the baby has tachycardia or bounding pulses. A murmur, again, along with all these would be suggestive of a left to right shunt. We as neonatologists learn very early how to look at the baby's color and find out what the problem is. A cyanosed baby could well be having PPHN. An ashen look would be suggestive of low left ventricular output, maybe hypoplastic left heart. Pallor, sudden appearance would mean IVH, and a mottled baby from a distance you can tell maybe in shock. Assessment of blood pressure and tissue perfusion is important. And last but not least in this list look at the pupils, touch the fontanelle, and look at the bladder. Again, for monitoring, our nursing personnel are very important to us, and they are the ones who will keep a track of temperature, heart rate, BP, respiratory rate, so on and so forth. Coming to temperature, the aim is to maintain normothermia. The temperature range is 36.5 to 37.5. One should aim to have an ambient temperature in the thermoneutral zone, which is weight and age specific. When we manage babies in the zone, there is minimal oxygen and calorie consumption. The BMR is at its minimum. There is less fluctuation of the cerebral blood flow, and all these combine to give better growth to the baby. We could use certain adjuncts for maintenance of temperature, like plastic wraps or emollients. And one very good way of monitoring this baby is to look at the core and peripheral temperature difference. There are studies to show that a difference of more than 2 degrees over 4 hours is suggestive of late onset sepsis. This is how a chart for thermoneutral zone looks like, where you look at the weight of the baby, age in days, and then you can decide what ambient temperature would he need and set it on the incubator. Heart rate, if the baby shows tachycardia, he could be hypoxemic, could be hypovolemic, he could be having sepsis, or he could just be having pain and anxiety. Bradycardia again could augur bad for the baby. He could be hypoxic, he could be having vagal stimulation or a compromised coronary perfusion. Besides looking at one number and one reading, one should look at the trends. And there is, of course, a recent interest in heart rate variations. Just like in the antenatal period, a lack of variability and decels means the baby is in distress. Similarly, lack of variability and decels in a newborn also doesn't augur well for him. There have been mathematical models analyzing the ECGs, and it has been found that they have good negative predictive value for late onset sepsis. An increased respiratory rate is a physiological response to hypoxemia. If it occurs suddenly, we should be thinking of pneumothorax. Tachypnea with shallow excursions is suggestive of respiratory insufficiency. Again, the support may be needed to be increased on the ventilator. Tachypnea with low tidal volumes, if we are thinking of extubation, this means the baby is not ready as yet. Blood pressure, we should have charts for the 5th, 95th, and 50th centiles. These babies have hypotension, which is common because of many reasons. Increased intrathoracic pressure causing less venous return. They could be having volume loss in terms of blood loss or dehydration. There could be third spacing or capillary because of capillary leak, or there could be pump failure. Hypertension is not very common, but once in a while you may encounter hypertension. The cause could be stress, pain, BPD, polycythemia, or fluid overload. Coming to pulse oximetry, we know that we have to set the targets on the pulse oximeter and the alarm limits. 90 to 95 is now accepted across all gestations. For PPHN, we may accept higher 95 to 98% saturations. Monitoring, of course, has to be continuous. And of course, when you were not there, you can go back and always look at the trends. Alarms have to be promptly attended to. All the nurses, all personnel have to know that reading of 100% is an emergency. And once in a while, we should do audit in our nurseries to look at the alarm limits which have been set. And you should look at whether alarms have been attended to promptly. Monitoring is regularly around the clock, but charting could be hourly on the charts. This could be used for titrating the FiO2 on the ventilator. And if facilities are there for TCO2, ETCO2, this could be utilized for fine-tuning the ventilator to make adjustments for the CO2. Pulmonary graphics can also help you to fine-tune the ventilation. Of course, it is a full topic in itself. Gases, we had a full lecture. They are true reflection of gas exchange and ventilatory adequacy. One could do one gas 1 hour after putting on ventilator. And after that, whenever there is significant change in clinical condition of the baby, or when we change significantly the ventilatory settings. Good old X-ray has not lost its glamour as yet. It is done for initial diagnosis of the cause, for looking at positions of the tube and the catheters, and whenever there is acute deuteration. But certainly there's no role of a daily X-ray, pre-extubation X-ray, post-intubation X-ray, or after re-intubation. One should document the distance of insertion in the records. One should not be doing an X-ray after every episode of desaturation. One has to do clinical examination first in this situation, and before ordering an X-ray, one should question oneself, why am I doing it and what will I get? Now, the right technique is important. Asepsis should be observed, the position should be right, baby should be quiet, and he should be well opposed to the film. My teacher, Dr. Professor Bhargav, taught us that X-ray has 4 corners, look at all of them. At the outset, look whether the film is inspiratory, has 6 anterior and 8 posterior ribs above the diaphragm. Expiratory rib can give you a fallacious impression of consolidation. Alignment, rotation should be looked at. Penetration, when it is right, you would see the vertebra through the heart. Look at all components before committing on diagnosis. Look at the lungs, the heart, the mediastinum, the bones, the ribs, and the soft tissues. Intubation, of course, has to be with the right size tube with the correct technique. And if most of the times the intubation could be elective, we should use atropine, fentanyl, and succinylcholine. Strict asepsis should be observed, and a fresh tube should be used whenever re-intubating. The right size of a tube would have a leak of less than 30%. All of us have to get used to this method of intubation in corona times, because these times are going to stay. So probably this sort of Perspex shield would be quite in place for intubating. People who are used to intubating through the portholes of incubator would find it of similar difficulty index. For fixation the tube, the vocal cord should be the guide. Look at the vocal cord guide and enter the tube size and fixation distance both in the records and on a card on the bedside. Techniques could be more than one. Have a unit policy and everyone should follow the same. The baby should be immobilized to prevent accidental extubation. This is one of the techniques described in the book that I will show you subsequently, but you could have one technique for your own unit. Lines, whether umbilical or central, should be inserted with full asepsis, and full asepsis should be maintained for later on for their maintenance. Dwell time could be 7 to 2 hours for peripheral and 7 to 10 days for umbilical lines. Date and time of insertion of the cannula should be written on the dressing. Tegaderm could be used. And just like we record the heart rate and other vitals, I think there should be a column, which I have in my unit, for looking at the IV insertion site for erythema. And we should have judicious and early use of central lines so that multiple pricks are not done for inserting cannulas. This is the book which I'm happy to say is written by my teacher, none other than Professor Derari, which has got all the SOPs for practical procedures in newborn nursery. You could have this unless you want to make your own SOPs. Having a tube down your glottis is not a pleasant experience. So the newborn is stressed. This stress increases the risk of IVH and pneumothorax. Opioids like morphine and fentanyl have been used in the past, but they are fraught with some side effects like respiratory depression, chest wall rigidity, and when we withdraw it after prolonged use, newborns can have withdrawal symptoms. Before saying that this agitated baby needs fentanyl, one should ensure that he is adequately ventilated, and agitation is not because of that. Oral sucrose has been successfully used to reduce crying while doing small procedures like heel stick. A systemic review in use of morphine for ventilated babies showed that there was no decrease in pain scores, and long-term sequelae like death, IVH, and PVL was no better. A secondary analysis of the famous NeoPain trial showed that the head circumference and weight at 5 to 7 years follow-up was lower than those in whom opiates were not used. So no need to use routine opioids in ventilated babies. However, all units should be practicing scoring of the pain in the newborn babies. Which score you use is up to you. Muscle paralysis is not required as a routine. it is again fraught with side effects, decreasing the compliance, hypotension, tachycardia, dependent edema, muscle wasting. But yes, it has a place in situations of mass PPHN and CDH where babies are very agitated or the oxygen requirement is 100%, they are on high MAPS, then one could use it for short duration as an infusion for a day or two. And when you are down to some 75% of FiO2, you could stop it. Pencuronium is better than pencuronium because it is short acting and has less side effects. Humidification or warmidification, as Professor Girish had said earlier, the temperature has to be set at 37 degrees. Warm, sterile water has to be used. Level has to be maintained. Water should be changed every 24 hours. Inadequate warming or humidification leads to hypothermia, drying of secretions, plugging of airways, and tube block. So do we need endotracheal suction for tube blocks? No. The indications would be absent or decreased chest wall movement, visible secretions, a change in rate or pattern of breathing, or a baby who has become hypoxic or bradycardic and is agitated without a known cause. But remember, word of caution, sometimes increase in secretion is also because of displaced tubes. Again, why are we cautious? Because suctioning has its own complications. The baby could be bradycardic, hypoxic, he may suffer airway trauma, atelectasis, bacteremia, or pneumothorax, and it has been seen that the blood pressure increases, there is an increase in the cerebral blood flow, and there is a fall in cerebral oxygenation. Do we need saline to be poured before suctioning? Well, this increases the hypoxia in the procedure, it causes more injury, can increase the intracranial tension and cause bradycardia. And it has been seen does not really increase the secretion recovery. And it is also said that this may dislocate the biofilm further down and increase the risk of VAP. The 2-person suction utilizing 4 hands is better tolerated by babies. It has been seen that the oxygenation remains better with this technique and the baby shows less stress and defense behavior. Open versus closed suction systems. Now newer machines are having closed systems and closed systems are available, though with the cost. But what was found in the Cochrane database review that there is no definite benefit of using closed suctions. So suctioning or not should be planned according to the disease. No routine is required. Suctioning may be required in the settings of pulmonary hemorrhage, post-extubation, mass, and pneumonia. Physiotherapy is required rarely, and systemic reviews have not shown any benefit. Hemodynamic monitoring, one should be clinically looking for opening up of PDA, looking at the precordium, wide pulse pressure, bounding pulses, and a murmur. And of course, echocardiography can pick up whether this PDA is hemodynamically significant. Monitoring of fluid therapy. No 2 babies are alike. So there is no watertight compartment and a standard escalation of fluids. All babies 80, 100, 110, 120 is not required. One should decide fluids daily by looking at the clinical parameters, looking at the daily weight loss, urine volume, looking at specific gravities. The meters are available, which are quite cheap these days, looking at the sodium, potassium, and creatinine. One could decide the fluids. Now, of course, coming to a very important aspect of care, we may sweat it out on ventilators, but the whole game is lost when this baby catches an infection. So what should we be doing? If you ask me, the first mantra, you close your eyes and just say hand wash, hand wash, hand wash. The second mantra is disposables, disposables, disposables. So besides hand washing, you should have alcohol gels besides all the beds. This, of course, has become a national character now with the pandemic on. Proper care of ET tubes, lines, and catheters. Utilizing bundles to ensure these cares. We should be seeing to it that babies get minimum IV pricks. We should plan our investigations. We should put in central lines or umbilical lines early enough so that the babies don't have multiple pricks. And every day during the morning rounds, one should look at the tubes and catheters and think, does he need it any longer? Now, there are certain guidelines. The clinical practice guidelines published by NNF in 2019, December, I have strong recommendations for the behavioral interventions for prevention of infection, and a strong recommendation again for aseptic non-touch techniques for certain procedures. What is a bundle? Bundle is a set of evidence-based practices performed collectively, which are proven to improve patient outcomes. Again, in the same guidelines, there are recommendations for using bundles for central line, insertion and care, and VAP prevention. A typical bundle for VAP looks like this: head elevation 30 degrees, oral care 4 hourly, no routine suction, if suction required 2 persons, and early extubation. Nutrition, of course, is the cornerstone of all care in the nursery. Enteral feeding should be preferred. Men should be started from day 1 itself. A daily record of calorie and protein intake should be done. These babies on ventilator require more calories, so the aim should be to provide them 120 to 140 kilocalories per kg per day. Early aggressive TPN should be given to ELBWs. Amino acid should be started within few hours of birth. Starting dose could be 2 grams per kilogram. Growth is to be monitored. Early fortification as soon as the baby reach or a feed of 90 to 100 ml per kg per day. Hematologically, a PCV should be more than 40 if the FiO2 requirement is more than 40%. When the phlebotomy losses are more than 10%, you replace PRBCs. Anemia, thrombocytopenia is common in these babies. They should be given weekly vitamin K. Biochemical monitoring, aiming for normal glycemia, normal calcium, normal magnesium, and normal electrolytes is the aim. Cranial ultrasound. If a baby less than 32 weeks or less than 1500 grams, a good protocol is doing ultrasound on day 3, day 7, day 14, or on discharge. Where in-house ultrasounds are done, you could do it more frequently. For bigger babies, do it on day 7 and at discharge. What we do is, on the day of admission, on the top of the file, we write the dates for head ultrasound and also the date for ROP screening. Now, even after 30 years, whenever I enter the nursery, I find it very intimidating. The bright lights, the noise are overstimulating to me. So what to say of preemie baby? It has been seen that the changes in cerebral oxygenation and blood volume happen even with minor procedures like diaper change and elevation of legs. And the baby cannot cope with these. So there is autonomic instability, dysfunctional motor responses, and altered state. So the developmental care helps these preemies to cope with these. The neonatal individualized developmental care assessment program. There have been a number of studies with this approach. Initial studies show that it is beneficial for neurobehavioral outcomes. Some babies had early discharges, but a meta-analysis done and published in 2013 showed that there are no long-term benefits. But in the end, I would say there's enough evidence for the deleterious effects. Hence, we need a comprehensive program to take care of these babies. These are the usual bundle of strategies that we do to minimize stress and overstimulation. I'll quickly go through them. Swaddle and provide boundaries to these babies. Place them prone with arms and knees flexed and hands in the midline. Move these babies slowly during position changes and contain the limbs to avoid startle response. Avoid hyperextension. Coordinate care activities to reduce handling and disruption to sleep. And provide the care of the babies during the wake hours rather than having a fixed schedule. Prior to handling, one should awaken the child, bring him to alert stage by gentle soft voice or gentle touch. Reduce environmental noise, provide them quiet times, reduce exposure to bright lights. Recommendations are to maintain noise levels less than 45 decibels. The recommendations for illumination are to have it between 1 to 60 foot candles. The lights should be cycled during the day to provide the sleep and awake rhythms, day-night rhythms to these babies. Non-nutritive sucking is also good. And kangaroo care can be provided even while babies are on ventilator once they are stable. But this requires a level of confidence within the unit. Family-centered care is being used very successfully. We have examples of centers in Delhi and in Trivandrum, which are using this family-centered care with participation and partnership of family, empowering them, involving them in the care of the babies. The concept of primary nurse is very important. It provides consistency of care, and this nurse knows the baby's behavioral baseline. Involving families in the care helps them in picking up the cues of their baby. They start recognizing their baby by the cues that they give. This is how a nested baby looks. Happy within himself, growing up. Non-nutritive sucking provides heart rate and oxygen stability. It could be given every 3 hours for 5 to 10 minutes. These babies reach full feeds early and they get discharged early. Positioning while ventilating, it's been found that prone position improves distribution of ventilation, oxygenation, decreases work of breathing, and encourages sleep, but sometimes it's difficult with umbilical lines. So babies should be repositioned for hourly, supine, sideline, flexion, and nesting can be done. Skin care, again, very important because the premies have thin stratum corneum. The fibrils connecting epidermis with dermis are fewer and widely spaced. Added to this, the risk of injury increases with less gestation, edema, adhesives, probes, and hypotension. So the skin should be inspected for color, perfusion, turgor, edema, and look at the pressure point. Sometimes they can have the breach at the occiput and over the ears. Look at the probe sites for any burn or any erythema. Emollients are not a routine because there's a concern about infection, but they can be used when the skin is dry and cracking. How does one prevent trauma to the skin? Less use of adhesives, dabbing the cotton on the tape, delaying tape removal by 24 hours is helpful. Remove them slowly. Water-soaked cotton balls can be used. Pull the tape parallel to the skin, folding onto itself, use mineral oil. 4 to 6 hourly turning is good. Now, towards the end, it is again very important, let me emphasize the counseling. Involve parents in every decision, inform them on a daily basis, and more frequently if they are critical, explain about all the possible morbidities, and also tell them the possibility of mortality, what are the rates in your own unit, how do they compare, tell them all facts, and convey to them that we are making all out efforts for an intact survival, and we should document whatever we talk. It is a good habit to have once a week what we used to call a file round, when you sit down in a separate room looking at the files only. Look at the records, the problems the baby had, their causation, plan for the tests, look at the blood tests, review the results of previous tests, review the scans, x-rays, and other tests already done. Very importantly, to go through the drug charts. There may be surprises. Check the doses, timing, toxicity, need for a change, monitor the growth, look at the nutrition, how much calories baby is getting. And I think with all this, if we take this wholesome care of the babies, all the babies can be donned or put on the ventilators safely, and they can be doffed or taken off the ventilator and sent home with an intact survival. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent deliberation. And you finished before time. That's much. And you have covered most of the aspects, especially the team effort, no routine sedation and opioids, no muscular paralysis agents, no routine suctioning or need of physiotherapy. You have covered excellently, especially your points on developmental supportive care, care of the skin, care of the environment, care of the baby as a whole. That's the most important thing, because babies, they tend to deteriorate whenever suctioning is done, whenever they suddenly change, when they startle and all these things, we don't see this. Thank you so much for the deliberation, sir. We will take the questions later on. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Amit Upadhyay, who is our second speaker. May I have Dr. Amit Upadhyay?
I'm sorry, there was some problem again on the poll. Whoever has submitted already, please do it again. I'm so sorry. Host, please do not end the poll. Otherwise we have to do it again. I'm sorry, but please don't do that. We'll just take a minute and then we will start. 1 second.
Okay.
Let the poll finish. Again, someone is.
Happy finger, fast fingers.
Okay, please do not touch end poll, please. Request.
Vinay, in the poll, there is nothing called submit. So properly,
You don't have.
they are doing the end poll thinking that that is submit.
No, they can't do it.
Though they can't do it, only host can do it. So someone has actually put end poll by mistake.
It's okay.
So host cannot actually also participate in the poll. So please don't try to participate in the poll.
You did now. Now you're taking your hands off.
Okay. If all the hosts, please close the poll from the top, and we will start with, and the poll will run.
There is a cross on the right corner. You have to cross there.
Top of the corner.
Okay. So shall I start your moderation? Vinay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have Professor Amit Upadhyay with us. He is DM Neonatology AIMS, MD DNB and MANMS, Fellowship in Neonatology from Monash, Australia. He's 20 years plus post MD. Is a good experience. He is currently head of neonatology and pediatrics at Newtima Hospital, Meerut. Former head, Department of Pediatrics, LNR Medical College, Meerut. He has to his publications, to his credit, more than 50 international research papers and presentations. And he has given more than 100 regional or national level presentations. His special interest lies in neonatal intensive care, neonatal seizures, neonatal pain. And before I hand over to Amit, I would like to say, now we are dealing with the drama part of the ventilation. ड्रामा मीन्स इस चीज में इमोशंस हैं, इस चीज के अंदर धड़कनें बढ़ भी सकती हैं, घट भी सकती हैं, सांसें उखड़ भी रही हैं, सांसें लौट के भी आ रही हैं, इसमें खुशी भी है और इसमें ट्रेजेडी भी है. That is what deterioration of a newborn or sudden deterioration of a newborn while being ventilated. So over to you, Dr. Amit. Let us hear from you. Dr. Amit, are you online? Can you hear me? He's not there.
He is here.
As a host, so that I can share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So, radiation of ventilated newborn. I hope this is it.
Sir, before you start, I will have to start the poll for your session. All the hosts, please close the window from the left top. Do not click on end poll. This is a little complicated quiz, so take your time. We will give you 1.5 minutes to do this.
Hello.
Video stop.
Sir, you're on mute.
Good evening, everybody. As Dr. Ravi has already said, we have moved to the dramatic part of ventilation now. With all adrenaline should be pumped up, and a baby who was doing well till now on ventilator has suddenly started to become unwell, to become sick now. तो जब अभी तक हमें लगता था हम पेरेंट को बता देते भाई सब ठीक है स्टेबल है, suddenly things are not stable, they are not good. How do we take on this scenario? Very challenging scenario where your presence of mind is checked in addition to your knowledge, where your reflexes are checked in addition to your knowledge. So knowledge is one thing, and application of knowledge in right time, in right situation is another thing. And this is what comes with experience. And this is
Amit sir, sorry to stop you here. Have you already started sharing your presentation? Because we can see only blank
Yes.
screen.
Not see your screen, Amit.
We can see only blank screen.
आ रहा है मैम अब can you see the screen now?
बिल्कुल नहीं आ रहा है.
Maybe एक बार stop share करके जो presentation आपका है उसको select कीजिए वापस से, तो maybe आ जाएगा.
मुझे तो आ रहा है स्क्रीन पे, मैं स्टॉप शेयर करके
नहीं आ रहा है अमित, नहीं आ रहा है.
अच्छा मैं दोबारा
वापस से
करूँ.
हाँ, अब उसी को सिलेक्ट करना जो आपका प्रेजेंटेशन है, दूसरा प्रेजेंटेशन मत. हाँ,
विनय, आशीष प्रकाश जी का नाम कैसे आ रहा है?
चलो हट गया.
ना 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 ये गलत खुल रही है सर. स्टॉप शेयर.
टेक्निकल ग्लिच होता है.
आपके पास आप मैक्स यूज कर रहे हैं क्या सर?
नहीं मैक नहीं यूज कर रहा हूँ मैं, बट ये
एक बार शेयर स्क्रीन करके आपको क्या ऑप्शन दिखते हैं वो मुझे बता दीजिए बस एक बार, मैं आपको बताता हूँ.
ये दिख रहा है सर, ये मैंने कर दिया इसको. acute deterioration अब आ रहा है.
हाँ, अब आ गया.
ओके सर. सो अभी तक कुछ नहीं सुनाई दिया जो मैंने बोला अभी तक?
नहीं सुनाई दिया, दिखाई नहीं दिया बस.
दिखाई नहीं दिया. Okay. So I was telling that in all this drama of a worsening baby who could be worsening with a varying rate, from saturations coming down slowly to crashing like a pan in flash, like a strike from the bolt. And you need all your experience in addition to your knowledge. You need to have very fast reflexes. You need to have a very good team for this. And you need to have all your equipments ready, all your drugs for emergency ready at the time. So our preparation also becomes very important. If you have a busy unit, then every room in unit should have your crash cart trolley, which is ready with drugs prepared every day in the morning. So this is a very important take home message right in the beginning, that you prepare every day morning as if you're about to have a crash just now. So begin the day in NICU, the nurses should begin the day by preparing as if in next 10 minutes there would be a crash in one of the babies in your unit. With this, I begin my talk. How do I move on to next? It's not moving. Yes. So you are called to see a small ventilated premature baby with RDS, but the baby has suddenly collapsed, is cyanosed, pale with falling blood pressure, falling heart rate. How does we deal with situation? This is what we would discuss. All would have gone through this situation. I would tell the initial overall strategy. Overall strategy is to have a systematic checklist to rapidly ascertain the problem and then treat it appropriately. This is most important, to have a systematic checklist. Aim to achieve adequate oxygenation. If any delay in diagnosis or management, remember to maintain the CPR basics. Your CPR is most important thing, irrespective of the cause. But obviously, we will not be discussing steps of CPR in this talk. Don't hesitate in calling anybody senior. If if you're a resident, you need to call your consultant. If you're an assistant, you need to call your consultant. If you are a junior consultant, you need to call the senior most and most experienced person should be there, who should be able to anticipate major problems and would require expertise beyond your abilities. But before jumping onto a baby who's having low saturation, low heart rate, beware that there is something known as false alarms. Desaturation, a decrease in oxygen concentration in blood, occurs frequently in ventilated babies. Although most desaturation resolve quickly, it is not uncommon for neonates to have profound desaturation that requires further assessment and intervention. Now, beeping of alarm is so common in NICUs that nurses become immune to this beep, 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 beep sound. It doesn't bother them. It doesn't even prevent them from going to sleep. It is so common. वो background में music चल रहा है, इस तरह से alarm बज रहा होता है, टू 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 टू, and finally they would switch it off. उसके alarm के ऊपर tape लगा देगी sister कि ये बजे ना आप. So that is wrong. And so many times the problem with crying wolf, that over the years one has to see that it's not, alarms are not false. You must have noted that we all know this gentleman who discovered this pulse oximeter, the Japanese person who was from Nihon Koden, who in 1984 discovered this pulse oximeter, the infrared technology. And if it is not, if it detects the ratio of your it is not attached from your pin or wherever you have attached it, then it can show fluctuating values, and that is a common cause. So if you have seen, if you are seeing a value of say 50%, there should be a waveform which should be coming along with that. If the waveform is not appropriate, then don't suddenly think that baby is hypoxemic. You just wait for some time, look at the baby, look at the heart rate, not just the saturation. So again, false hypoxemia, false bradycardia, all false alarms are quite common. You look at the duration is 50 events of false hypoxemia have occurred. People have observed and studied that almost 50 events of false hypoxemia. False bradycardia is much less. So overall total false alarms, almost 62 events in a day in a Masimo pulse oximeter. Now Masimo is a very standardized pulse oximeter. It is the state-of-art pulse oximeter. So even with this state-of-art pulse oximeter, false alarms could be significant. So look for stopping of movements. If the limbs are moving, it is common to have abnormal. If the baby is on pulse oximeter, then also some false alarms can be there because of interference to red and infrared. Pulse waveform should look good before you say that this pulse oximeter is showing hypoxemia. Then pulse rate on ECG should match your saturation pulse oximeter saturation or heart rate. So these are important things to look at, because a new nurse can just jump on a false alarm. So that has to be seen. With this background, what are the learning objectives? Learning objective is recognition of deterioration. How do you recognize that the child is actually deteriorating? What are the immediate steps which have to be taken? How to evaluate the etiology? If you know the cause only, then you can have an intervention. And then steps to prevent a similar episode in future. Recognition is the most important thing. What the eyes don't see, what the mind doesn't know, the eyes don't see. So your mind has to know, and then your eyes have to see. So the change in color, what is the normal color of this baby, you need to know. And in the background, if you have a knowledge of, okay, how is a pink baby, how is a pale baby with low mood, the shocky baby who's pale or asphyxia pallida is there, or it is just simple anemia which is there. So you have to look at the color and you have to observe the change in color. appearance or change in retraction, quite comfortable on ventilation earlier. Is he now having a lot of retractions? That has to be seen. Minimal or no chest expansion. If the baby is on ventilator and you observe that the chest is not moving, which earlier it was, so there is some abnormality. Then hypotension, poor pulses, bradycardia, cyanosis. These are important things which you need to. Hypotension is not actually a clinical thing, but hypoperfusion, you can say that it is a clinical thing. And you always have to look for hypoperfusion. You need to look at what is the capillary refill time. Is it being so? You should, if there is an emergency, still you should not forget washing your hands with the sterilium and going to the baby immediately. And first thing you touch, see the baby and you touch the baby. You see for the color and see for the retraction, see for the chest movement, and you touch the baby for pulses and you touch the baby for capillary refill time. This much you require to do immediately. Then you look at the pulse oximeter and the ECG, and you look at the change in heart rate and change in saturation. Okay, so based on this, you would be able to decide whether the baby is actually deteriorating or not. So message 1 is set the monitor alarms appropriately. Upper limit of saturation should never be set at 100% to offset any alarm. This is very commonly units do that. The nurse 100% पे set कर देगी कि ऊपर का alarm ना बोले, बार-बार जाना पड़ेगा मुझे. So this is wrong. This is medico-legally very wrong. And many doctors, they are facing problems because of this now. Alarm limit should be set between 88 to 93% for a preterm baby. We are mostly dealing with preterm babies, so 88 to 93%. If the baby is big and pathology is say something like PPHN or MAS, then your lower range would obviously go up from 92 to 95 or 97, you may set. And you have to appropriately respond as well. So you should just not sit on a monitor which is alarming. You should always go, even if you have to go 100 times in a day, you have to go 100 times in a day to the alarm, and never think that it is a false alarm. See the baby, not the monitor. ECG lead may be fallen off. It may not be snugly on the baby. Sometimes what happens is that X-ray person takes off the ECG lead and it is not put back. So then again it shows a flat tracing. And if you have a baby who is moving the limb, saturations may not be there. So if the ECG shows flat trace, look at the baby. If he's having pink and perfusion is okay, see the leads and probe. If saturation is 100%, but the baby looks pale and white and listless, rush for intervention. Don't think that अरे बच्चा down लग रहा है, कोई बात नहीं, but saturation तो ठीक आ रही है. This is wrong. I have seen that happen many times, and those who say that this does not happen, probably they are grossly mistaken. Saturation probes can be very wrong. I had a monitor in which saturation was showing 100% and baby was dead. There was no heartbeat in the baby, but saturation was showing 9900, 9900. I have a bedside echo with me all the time. I did an echo immediately. It showed cardiac standstill, and still the monitor was showing 100. So it helped me a lot in understanding the monitors. It helped me in getting change my monitors, and so be ready for everything. Message 3 is be prepared for acute deterioration all the time and every time. You can't go preparing drugs if the baby has had a sudden cardiac arrest. Adrenaline, saline, if you require say picarb at times, you need to have it prepared in your crash cart trolley every day in the morning with date and time fixed on those diluted syringes. If you dilute adrenaline, say 1 ml in 9 ml of saline, then label it adrenaline so that somebody doesn't think that it is normal saline and just gives it to some baby as a 10 ml bolus. So you label it properly, you put your date and time of preparation and leave it on the crash cart trolley. You need that beforehand. Crash cart trolley should always be ready. You need to have an assistant who is reliable, fast, understands your expressions. Now, that is very important. आपको बोलना ना पड़े, आप इशारा करो और वो सामान लाता रहे. इतनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए दो लोगों में जो who are at the bedside. You need to have reliable 100% oxygen source. कि सिलेंडर लगाया रिससिटेशन के लिए, पता लगा सिलेंडर ही खाली है. This cannot happen. You should have a central oxygen supply. If that is not possible, then oxygen cylinders should be there which are full. Reliable suction source with a manometer. It should have 80 to 100 millimeters of water or 100 to 130 centimeters of water. Functioning self-inflating bag with reservoir. जिस टाइम बच्चा डाउन हुआ उस टाइम ढूंढ मच रही है नर्सरी में, भाई अम्बू बैग लाओ, अम्बू बैग कहाँ है सर, वो तो ओटी ले गई है सिस्टर, अभी सीजर होने वाला था. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. This would be catastrophic. Please, you have multiple self-inflating bags in your NICU. जिस टाइम आप को क्रैश होता है बेबी, उस टाइम पे पता लगा अम्बू बैग खराब है, उसमें रिजर्वायर नहीं है. And so this is very important. Equipment for intubation and all size tube should be in plenty. अगर बच्चे का 3 साइज का ट्यूब चाहिए तो एक 3 साइज ट्यूब रखी आपने, किसी ने खोला और सडनली वो गिर गई जल्दी जल्दी में. दिस हैपेंस कॉमनली. ये वो जल्दी जल्दी में खोला कि भाई बच्चा एकदम क्रैश हो रहा है, जल्दी सर ये लो, खोली ट्यूब और ट्यूब गिर गई. So be prepared for everything. Multiple things should be there. Sorry. Okay, so in-house you need light source. In-house X-ray should be there. But if a baby is down, he's deteriorating, you need a bedside X-ray. How many of you who are attending the workshop have to send the baby for X-ray if a baby is on CPAP or ventilator? I see that happening quite commonly in many units. So this is not possible. This is unethical. If you have a medical legal case on you, you can never save yourself if you don't have an X-ray in a baby who has worsened. You need to have an echo bedside. Babies who are sick cannot go out. You need to have ultrasound in-house. You again can't send the baby out. And without them, it will be difficult to save your skin in medical legal suit. Any amount of money which you earn from your patient, one medical legal lawsuit and you are done with it. So if a baby actually worsens, what all actions do you need to take? You ask for an X-ray. Do you go for an ABG? Order an ultrasound skull, get a 2D echo. All of the above, none of the above. Now this is a very standard question. And the new age neonatologist, I was taking a DNB exam and a baby worsened right in front of me. As he was giving, I said, you manage this baby. The response of that son was, at end of 3 years of DNB was, eco leke aao, mujhe eco karna hai sir, ye ek din ka bachcha hai, isko PDA khul gaya. So that approach has to go. You need to have your basics right. You don't need any of the things. Answer is none of the above if you have a baby who is worsening acutely. That is a very important take-home message for the new age neonatologists who are learning neonatology now. Gadgets are not required at this moment. What you require is a stethoscope. What you require is eyes. What you require is your hand and your mind and some basic drugs. Respond to baby first and not the monitor is the next take-home message from whatever we have until now. Now coming on to what are the common causes. DOPE is a standard acronym which we used from PALS days. Displacement of ET tube, the ET tube which was there, it has come off. If the baby is on CPAP, then the CPAP prong has come off from the nose. If there is obstruction to the endotracheal tube, if the tube has blocked with blood, if the tube has blocked with secretions, if the tube has blocked with surfactant, at times large volume surfactants are given to babies and surfactant itself, it clots at the tip of the endotracheal tube. And that can block the ET tube. So obstruction of tube, then a very dreaded complication of pneumothorax. That DOPE P is for pneumothorax. E is equipment failure, which is failure of ventilator or failure of humidifier or failure of the monitor. And third is disease worsening, which could be an underlying disease like HMD, which was there, which could be meconium aspiration, which has a some new pneumonia patch has appeared, or a new disease has come over, like PDA, sepsis, bleed, NEC. So doped, you can see D I have added as a disease process which is ongoing in the baby. Now steps to be taken. We have gone on to the intervention now. There is some problem with this arrow. Once the baby has worsened, first thing is to take the ventilator out of the equation. You need to disconnect the baby from ventilator and have him under direct control of your hands. Because if the ventilator is not functioning, it is taken out of equation right away and you start hand ventilating this baby. This baby who has worsened on ventilator, you can't do room air resuscitation of the newborn. You can either start off with whatever FiO2 he was on and add on 10 to 20%, or if he's really sick and has a background severe sickness, then you begin directly with 100% FiO2. Am I clear with that? No room air resuscitation for this baby who has acutely deteriorated. Now, once you are hand ventilating, there are two things which you can see. One is there is adequate chest movement. The other is there is no chest movement. If there is no chest movement you'll auscultate, there is no breath sound. This is one scenario. You have different set of pathologies which are there. Other thing is, situation is, there is, once you start ventilating, there is good chest movement. Bilateral on auscultation, bilateral good breath sounds are there, and the baby starts improving after your bagging. So this is normal, good situation is there. So such a baby, probable cause could be just, some secretions which were there, disease worsening was there, he requires higher pressures. So you don't have to do the suction, you don't have to change the tube, you don't have to do anything else, and you can just increase probably the pressures in the ventilator and just restart ventilation with higher pressures. Now, if the baby has good chest movement and has normal breath sound but doesn't improve on ventilator, you could be dealing with something like, say, a cyanotic heart disease or severe pulmonary hypertension. It goes into a different domain. We will not, this is a change in pathology which is there. We will not go into this domain. Now next is disconnected from ventilator. Baby has no chest movement and there is poor breath sound audible and there is poor saturation even after disconnecting and hand bagging with 100% FiO2. Again, recheck whether the oxygen is connected in the positive pressure ventilation bag or not. Recheck whether reservoir is there and you are giving 100% oxygen or not. And if there is no chest movement, obviously FiO2 is not an issue. It is the pressure which is the problem. And you have to see whether auscultate and see if there is air entry or not. You have to see if there is no air entry or equal air entry, or you have to auscultate over the stomach and see if there is no air entry in the chest and there is air entry in the stomach. Then the tube is somewhere else. Rarely you can have a wheeze or absent breath sound. It is not a usual scenario. Other than BPD, you will not encounter that. So we will not discuss it. One has to understand that poor breath sound at times in unilateral diseases also is difficult to appreciate because of very good conductivity of breath sounds. Even if you have a pneumothorax, you may not be able to appreciate unequal breath sound. Now, this is something which you learn only with experience, and you need to have see more and more babies to appreciate that there could be a big pneumothorax even with a adequate air entry on that side of lung. This is something which you should not forget. So if there is no air entry on auscultation, it is due to a tube block or a displaced tube. So this is of doped, displaced tube or obstructed tube. If there is unequal breath sound, this is very important to know and diagnose, then it is probably due to pneumothorax. We will discuss all these later as well. If there is breath sound in the stomach, then it is a displaced tube. It has come out from ET tube from the trachea and has gone into the stomach. And fourth, wheezing is there. It is due to bronchospasm. It is rare in newborns. We can leave that. So no chest movement, poor breath sound, poor saturation, change the ET immediately. And you'll go for transillumination of the chest because you could be dealing with a pneumothorax. So this is something which should come immediately to your mind that, okay, either change the tube or begin positive pressure ventilation by bag and mask and get a new tube, appropriate size tube, fix it at a point where it was there earlier and look at the chest movement again. So this was the first scenario was unequal or decreased air entry, more sounds over stomach, mark was slipped, so ET dislodgement is clear. Normal position of ET tube has to be seen and appreciated. You can see the ET tube in this X-ray, and it is at T2, T3 level. It should be. You can appreciate the carina where the trachea is bifurcating, and it should be about half 1 centimeter above the carina. The endotracheal tube should be there. You can appreciate the over-ventilated lungs, how large volume lungs these are. So probably this baby could have been ventilated for asphyxia. He has a gasless abdomen, again something going in favor of asphyxia. Now abnormal tube position that can be appreciated in this X-ray. The ET tube is so high up and the ET tube which is so low down. This can happen if your tubes are not fixed. One has to appreciate that this left and right lung X-rays can be in very quick succession as well. Because with the movement of the neck from extension to flexion, the position of tube in the chest may change by 2 to 3 centimeters, which is a very long distance in a small preterm baby. The preferred site is about T2 to T3, just above carina. Always record lip to tip distance. Nurses had to check it in each shift. It should be documented at the bedside that we had put the tube at say 6 centimeters or 7.5 centimeters. And this should be after confirming the position of ET tube by chest X. This is important. It is not a theoretical thing कि अच्छा हमने डाल दी ट्यूब, मुझे एयर एंट्री दोनों तरफ दिखाई सुनाई दे रही है और बेबी ठीक है तो एक्सरे की क्या जरूरत है. I would strongly recommend that you should have an X-ray chest after intubating and ventilating this baby to confirm position of tube in addition to knowing the lung pathology. And secure the ETT properly. It's really a very shoddy job if you have not done it properly. It can lead to skin abnormalities. By peeling of skin, it can lead to the ET tube moving up and down. Always keep resuscitation equipment ready bedside. And you need to have a clinical exam after you intubate. ETCU2 can be checked in if you have this facility, and after some time ABG is required. ABG is never something in which you require immediately, just like chest X-ray. ABG is something which will always wait. Pulse oximeter tells you about the oxygen saturation is very reasonable. If you have percutaneous oxygen monitoring, transcutaneous oxygen monitoring, that is good enough. You definitely don't need a ABG. I would not recommend the ABG after 20 to 30 minutes of stabilization of the baby. You see there is a tegaderm which has been fixed, then the endotracheal tube which has been fixed. You can see that this portion of ET tube is there because this ET tube is being pulled down by the weight of the the socket which is there, probably the weight of the tube. So this will be a mobile ET tube. One has to see that this is not the case. It is not being pulled down by the gravity. So you see this in contrast to this tube going down. This is a very securely put in tube. This is a baby who has cleft lip and cleft palate. And so how securely it is placed. so that it doesn't kink, so that it doesn't, gravity is eliminated by fixing it over here. So a lot of mind should go into small things. Ventilation is about doing small things rightly rather than, a rocket science. So there are new things which have come over for fixing of ET tube. This is a new tech product, which is a ET tube holder, and this will help in better holding of the tube. And you can have the baby prone, and so that, again, the gravity is eliminated. And so pulling of the ET tube is lesser in this position. So ET fixation would be better. This again highlights how tube position can change with the, this is on the extreme, this is in the middle flexion. This is with the extension, the tube is going up, and with the flexion of the neck, the tube is going down. Again, this figure is showing in the neutral position, the tube with the extension 2 centimeter movement up, extension along with rotation. So if extension along with rotation, as much as 2.5 centimeter the tube can come out, and with flexion 2 centimeter it can go in. So you need to know the position of the head at the time of X-ray. That is very important. Remember that. Scenario 2 is if you have a lot of secretions after the baby is worsening, if you have coarse sound on chest auscultation or absent breath sound, if the saturation is increasing and decreasing, ventilator requirements have been up and down, there is decreased chest rise, ABG is showing high CO2, that is retention, then there is some ET obstruction which is happening, and you need to do ET suction. ET suction is a very invasive procedure, and you need to do it like a big procedure is on hand. Don't take it lightly. Just sister suction kar dena, sister आई बच्ची को देखते हुए और इसका suction करना शुरू कर दिया. It is a process which has to be done in a very aseptic way. Note the length of the catheter to be inserted inside. We won't go into the details of ET suction. There is not enough time. Third scenario is very, very important. You have absent unilateral entry. Think about it. What are we dealing with now? There is increasing pressure requirement. There is sudden hypotension. There is tachycardia. Before bradycardia, newborns respond to hypoxia by tachycardia. That is something, if we are looking only at bradycardia, then we are probably late by this time. There is decreased movement of chest, at least on one side, and vitals are fluctuating. Then you are dealing with pneumothorax. You need to have a transilluminator, and you can transilluminate the chest of the baby. And you see, this is a wonderful picture showing transillumination, which is showing pneumothorax on the right side. On the left side, you can see this right side is totally illuminated. On the left side, there is nothing, no transillumination. So, and you get an X-ray chest done, and you see this. This is all free air. What does it tell about the lung? You can see the lung is also, it's not collapsed completely. It is a rigid lung. It is a lung of a diseased lung, which is not collapsed even under the pressure of so much air around it. It's a tension pneumothorax because the heart has been pushed to the other side. So it's a huge pneumothorax. It is a tension pneumothorax, but the lung has not collapsed. So it has happened in a diseased lung, in a lung with probably a baby with having significant heart HMD, and this needs an immediate drainage because tension pneumothorax, that is pneumothorax with shift of mediastinum, will lead to death of the baby within minutes. 60 seconds, this baby could be dead. This has to be remembered. Pneumopericardium. This is, you can see there is no free air in the lung, but around heart, there is free air. This is pneumopericardium. So treatment is drainage. You can put in a needle. This is the, what you call the spinal needle, or you can just put in a cannula and through a 3-way you can drain it. And if you don't have immediately, if you don't have that full system of drainage, You can even put this underwater seal in a 1 liter of 500 ml normal saline bottle. If you are very well prepared, then this Vigon thing is there, which is very less messy, and you can just attach the Vigon catheter to this valvular thing, and the air just comes out in one direction from here to here. So this is a little bit costly, not too much. You can easily, a patient who is affording ventilation can afford everything, I believe. So the next step is disconnect the baby from ventilator and start bagging. Now the other scenario, adequate chest movement is there, normal breath sound on ventilator, improved saturation after bagging, at same pressure if it had done, then it was faulty oxygen supply or a ventilator problem. Okay. So we have completed this right side of the flow chart. Now we are back to the left side, which is a more common scenario as well. That is improved with bagging. Many doctors call me and ask me this question, doctor, there is a baby on ventilator, मैं बैग करता हूँ, वो improve होता है, जब बैगिंग बंद कर देता हूँ, वो खराब हो जाता है, क्या करने का है? So हमारी X-ray कराओ, and doctor most often says कि sir X-ray की facility नहीं है. Now what can be done? Now no X-ray means no ventilation. And same pressure पे अगर वो improve कर गया, the faulty oxygen system and ventilation problem is there. If he's better with more pressures, then it is probably a worsening lung disease and or a partial tube block, and you need to manage that. How would a worsening lung disease look like? You know, this is a baby a couple of hours apart. You can see this lung was already a diseased lung on right side. But now after some time, in addition to the right lung, which is bad, the left lung also is very bad. It is white, homogeneously white. It has also collapsed probably. You can see over here, no tubes were there, but by this time, 2 tubes have come in. So how bad this pneumothorax would have been, you can imagine that it didn't drain with one, and the second one had to be put in just to, this can happen at times. This can happen at times.
Sorry, Amit, your time is nearly up.
Okay. Now persistent alarm from ventilator, if it is equipment malfunction, then this has to be seen as well. And inadequate gas supply is a common cause. Leaks from humidifier, leaks in ventilator tubing, this is commonly seen. If you have ventilator with waveform, you should be guided by that. This flow, both on inspiration and expiration, should be there. Always look at that. You see, the flow previously was very good, but in this, there is hardly any flow which is there during inspiration of ventilator. So obviously, there is problem with the circuit or equipment failure is there. If there is no expiratory flow in the in this flow in the waveform, then probably this is a baby who is probably self-extubated or tube is too in. This baby will show almost 100% leak. So you continue. How do you manage such a baby? You continue hand ventilate, tighten all the tubing joints, check humidifier inlets and output joints, restore power supply. कई बार होता है कि एक्सरे वाला आया, उसने एक प्लग, उसके सारे प्लग फुल हैं, ह्यूमिडिफायर, इतने सारी मशीनें लगी हुई हैं, उसको कहा मुझे तो एक्सरे करना है. अब उसने एक प्लग निकाल के अपना एक्सरे का सॉकेट लगाया और एक्सरे खींच दिया. अब वो एक्सरे तो था वेंटिलेटर के उसका. So restore power supply. See, it has not been taken off by X-ray person or eco person. This is common. Don't think that ये तो बड़े बेवकूफ करते होंगे. This can happen in any unit. Just चाचा चौधरी वाला दिमाग चालू रखना है हर टाइम. Change ventilator if it is not working. Inform biomedics if you have one that your ventilator is defaulting at times. Inappropriate setting on ventilator. If very low flow has been set, then less than 6 liters, you have set a PIP of 15, 18, 20, 25. If the flow is less, it will not be delivered. So look at that. Inappropriate pressures, setting up a low tidal volume. Suppose you are by mistake, you have set a low VG. If you are operating on volume guarantee and you have set it at 2 ml per kilo, somehow somebody, some staff had set. Then third, very important is low IT. That is inspiratory time. I often call, or you can say TI. Because if the TI is very less, 0.2 seconds, then the total PIP which you have set will not be delivered. Again, so inappropriate settings should be looked at. When will this happen? This will often happen if you change a ventilator, because ventilators, or if you change a mode on ventilator from high frequency to SIMV or SIMV to high frequency, again back to SIMV, or if you change from PTV to SIMV, and if you change ventilator from say Dragger, if you move on to Sensormedics, or if from Dragger you move on to SLE, every ventilator किसी में PIP same setting पे PIP 15 दिखाएगा, आपने 15 उसी अगले में सेट किया, अब वो 20 आने लग जाएगा, because वो PP add कर देता है. So know your ventilator which you are using. A lot of confusion can happen if you change settings of ventilator, modes of ventilator, or ventilator itself is changed. Oh, keep your minds open. Sensor failure can happen at times. Most of the people are not using sensors in any case, I think. वो sensor एक extra खर्चा लगता है बहुत लोगों को, but it should be there in all babies. Now, last it would be disconnect from the baby. And what about non-pulmonary causes? अभी तक सारे lung respiratory वाले थे, non-pulmonary causes. So appropriate action will depend on the pathology. Adequate chest movement will be there, a breath sound would be there on bagging, but the baby is not improving. So non-pulmonary causes could be there in such patients in which chest expansion is good on bag and mask ventilation. So non-pulmonary causes are despite good chest movement, despite good air entry bilaterally, saturations are still poor. So if you have tachycardia and wide pulse along with this situation, it could be a PDA which has opened up. Remember, PDA may be silent as well. So look at the X-ray. If the X-ray is showing worsening, then it could be PDA which is there. So if the baby is lethargic, has pallor, poor perfusion in addition to tachycardia, it could be sepsis which has set in. Now, if there is a flip-flop or fluctuating saturation is there, this could be pulmonary hypertension, PPHN could be there. Next, if there is sudden drop in hemoglobin or a bulging fontanelle, then there could be IVH. So non-pulmonary causes. In sepsis, you can add NEC as well. Onset of NEC can also lead to, in addition to this hemodynamic instability and worsening in the baby. So IVH, bleed in brain.
Excuse me, Amit.
The first symptom.
Amit, you'll have to finish a little quickly, please.
Yes, ma'am. In 2 minutes, I will finish.
Okay, okay.
Pulmonary hypertension, you have to open your mind with the clinical scenario. We will not be doing the management of PPHN, but you just need to hyperventilate. Higher pressures and hyperventilation, better blood pressures will help you guide over. Now, other occasional causes are there, which include septicemia, hypoglycemia, hypocalcemia, and hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia is a very deadly cause, and I have seen at least 10 or 15 babies who have worsened acutely because of hyperkalemia. It is something which you will get to know only either in your ABG or if you have an ECG lead attached. If you have acute T waves, then think of hyperkalemia, especially in a baby who has renal failure, especially in a baby who has asphyxia. So you can have, you need a ECG monitor to urgently diagnose it. Some congenital heart diseases can rarely present as acute worsening. Hypoplastic left heart, coarctation, TGA. You need to have a bedside echo and a pediatric cardiologist. If they are pending echo, you can start prostaglandin infusion if you have strong suspicion about a congenital heart disease. If everything is okay, try to just comfort the baby. Think of analgesia, sedation in this baby. Try to capture baby's breath by increasing the ventilating rate. Rate is something which we often not look at. We increase the pressure, we increase the FiO2, but rates often we tend to ignore. If everything fails, try muscle relaxant as well. But If you are not able to ventilate, if the tube is out and you give muscle relaxant, the baby is dead in next 30 seconds. So be sure about what you are doing before you do anything. Document and analyze everything. Continuous analysis of what you are doing should be there. What step has caused, whether it has caused any benefit or it has caused worsening, should be looked at. Document what all you have done. The person doing it is not important. Don't write isne ye kiya, but kya kya hua, that needs to be documented. To summarize, in the end, I would say see the baby first, not the monitor. Attend the baby first, not the machine. Don't sit on one. Check all possible causes of deterioration. Don't start the blame game. कि सिस्टर को आती तुमने अभी तक ये नहीं देखा, तुमने ये नहीं करा, मुझे पहले क्यों नहीं फोन करा. सिस्टर बैठ जाएगी, आप उससे कुछ भी कहोगे, वो रोना शुरू कर देगी वहीं पे, और game would be lost. So don't start a blame game. Evaluate later on. Record the events. Rectify the system so that you prevent this adverse event happening again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much for the excellent deliberation. Though I did give some time because Dr. Ashish Prakash has taken less time. So you did very well. It is really a catastrophe, really hard racing condition, what to do. And as you said very correctly, keep calm, just think what could have gone wrong. So here is a quiz. Everybody please start attending the quiz, please.
ये एम्स का एंट्रेंस एग्जाम जैसा क्विज का क्वेश्चन है ये.
काफी हार्ड क्विज डाली है सकते हैं.
हाँ, ये मतलब नॉर्मल वैसा क्वेश्चन नहीं है एमबीबीएस एंट्रेंस या पीजी एंट्रेंस वाला.
तो कोई डीएम एंट्री में आपने डाला हुआ है इस समय.
रवि सर जितने क्विज हो रहा है अगर आप परमिट करो तो एक दो क्वेश्चंस ऐसे हैं.
Only purpose is not to get a right answer, but just so that people think. There could be multiple answers which are right. People would argue नहीं ये होना चाहिए, ये नहीं ये होना चाहिए. Purpose is just to stimulate a mind.
हाँ रवि सर अगर आप अलाउ करो in the meantime कुछ क्वेश्चन
किसने गलत किया.
Can we some questions please?
हाँ कुछ क्वेश्चन ऐसे हैं जो जिनके साथ कुछ टेक होम मैसेजेस हैं. अगर आप अलाउ करो तो मैं पूछूं.
हाँ प्लीज.
हाँ जी सर, बिल्कुल सर.
क्वेश्चन डॉक्टर आशीष प्रकाश, जैसे सर अमित ने कहा कि ईटी ट्यूब शुड बी वेल सिक्योर्ड. तो वेल सिक्योर करने के लिए हम टफ से टफ एडेसिव ढूंढते हैं, माइक्रोपोर या डायना. सो व्हाट आर योर रिकमेंडेशन? व्हिच एडेसिव शुड बी यूज्ड फॉर सिक्योरिंग ईटी ट्यूब, यूवीसी कैनुला और आईवी कैनुला?
Sir, one has to find out what one is comfortable with.
For taking care of his skin. Skin is important, sir.
One way is that you apply Tegaderm beforehand. That before putting anything else, you apply Tegaderm, and on top that is left in place. And on top of that, you can use other adhesives, whichever you like.
Second question: is there any recommendation to change this disposable ventilator circuit? After how many hours? After how many days?
And for one patient, unless the circuit is visibly soiled, you don't need to change for a patient. And of course, otherwise, once you have removed one patient, that disposable circuit is a disposable circuit.
Okay.
You have to dispose.
So then other point.
Change of water in humidifier
Every 24 hours.
Then sir, if very thick secretions are coming through endotracheal tube, is there any use of giving any mucolytic drug by nebulizer or something like?
I haven't found any reference. If in this situation, the type of babies we deal with, probably that thick secretions may not require any mucolytic. I don't know what Amit would have to say to this.
No, nothing. We also don't use anything.
So this question was to take some take-home messages. हाँ, रवि सर पूछिए.
May I add, sir, regarding the change of water in the humidifier? I think if we attach it with the autofill, we just attach a normal sterile water with the IV tubing attached to
And normally 24 hours तो कभी रहता ही नहीं. अगर आपने ऑटोफिल नहीं कर रखा तो it will मतलब वो तो अगर लगातार चल रहा है तो it will definitely it will evaporate.
जब भी नया पानी भरेंगे ना, उसको ह्यूमिडिफाई होने में, गर्म होने में, it will take lot of time. By the time तो ड्राई एयर ही अंदर जा रही है ना, ड्राई.
मैंने कभी चेंज करते नहीं देखा कि ह्यूमिडिफायर का पानी हमें चेंज करना पड़ रहा है.
आराम से चलता है. हम तो आपको फ्रैंकली बताएं, तो स्ट्राइल वाटर आना बंद हो गया ना, जब कोविड क्राइसिस का चाइना में हुई, सारी सप्लाई डाइवर्ट हो गई चाइना में. तो हम लोग क्या करें, हमने बिस्लरी की बॉटल्स लगाई उल्टा करके. इट वर्क्स वेरी वेल. उसके ढक्कन में.
Amit, there are questions for you.
Yes,
How ventilator graphics can help in deciding in terms of dope?
मैंने स्लाइड्स दिखाई थी.
बहुत अच्छी से.
If you have a ventilator, it is good. Like you have to look at the expiratory flow if it is there or not, and obstruction can be. But they are keep it basic. आप अपनी आईज पे रिलाई करो, अपने स्टेथोस्कोप पे रिलाई करो. मैसेज शुड नॉट गो दैट आपको पल्मोनरी ग्राफिक्स देखने हैं कॉज ढूंढने के लिए.
So clinically,
आज आपके पास हो सकता है या नहीं है. I would leave that topic. जिसको ये सीखना है वो पूरे 4-5 दिन की अलग से वर्कशॉप करे, पहले पढ़े. आपको मैसेज ये जाना चाहिए, if baby is down, don't look at graphics. You take the baby on your bag and mask ventilator, and you have a stethoscope on the chest, and you have a chest X-ray with you. You have a simple things. Don't go for graphics.
So what could be the reason for pulse ox showing 100% for a dead baby? This Dr. Usha has asked.
Ma'am, this can happen if your pulse oximeter is of low quality. This happens with we had a GE pulse oximeter when we started our new hospital, और उसके अंदर we had problems. और हमारा उन्होंने चेंज यही तभी किया. उसके हिस्ट्री के अंदर वो उसी लास्ट हिस्ट्री के हिसाब से डिमॉन्स्ट्रेट करता रहता था अपनी वो. So it would show the last best which it had, and till we had this documented. I made a video of this baby with an echo showing standstill of heart and the pulse oximeter showing 99-100% saturation.
Yeah.
And then all my monitors they replaced with a Masimo monitor, because I said this is not possible.
So the message goes, treat the baby, not the equipment.
Absolutely.
मैडम अब मॉडरेटर को जॉब.
Dr. Ravi?
Ma'am, can I? Dr. Ashish Prakash, see, when a baby is being ventilated, weighing a baby is a big problem. So, and most of the machines are not equipped with the inbuilt weighing machines. So, what do you recommend? What should be done? And really, fluid balance is very critical at that time. So, what do you suggest should be done?
You have to have well-trained nurses, and your tube has to be appropriately fixed. And then weighing can be done bedside. Even as I told that even the kangaroo care can be done with ventilation on. But you have to look at the stability of the baby. But yes, weighing can be done with properly fixed tubes.
Second question, do we have to give steroid pre-extubation steroid? Yes, Amit, can you want to add something? You want to add something?
Yes. My take on this previous question is that 99.9% of times you will not require weighing this baby. Because, a baby who is really critical, as you said, a critical baby needs weight. He will have all types of lines attached to him.
Yeah.
And, usko gauze piece se aapne UVC, UAC, arterial line, and ET tube, सब कुछ connected है. अब उस बच्चे को अगर आपके पास incubator में है जिसमें inbuilt weighing scale है, other than that, it is really a futile exercise to weigh this baby.
Exactly.
AMC के जब वो position में पहुंच गया है, तब आप चाहे उस पे कर लो. But I would say that either you do it yourself, standing in front of you, assisting a weigh, or otherwise Davis sisters will create a mess.
But
मैं कभी नहीं करता weigh.
We can take also urine output as a rough guide. If
Oh yes, urine output, serum sodium, serum potassium, urine osmolarity,
puffiness and other criteria. Yeah. And what about pre-extubation steroids? Ashish Prakash sir?
Not usually required unless the ventilation has been prolonged. I mean, if it is long, you are suspecting BPD, you may follow DART sort of a regime. But one has to know that for using the DART sort of a regime, you have to take consent from the parents.
Okay.
because there can
One
be
question. About rapid sequence intubation in newborns, how often is it practiced?
Well, it all depends on what you have got used to, but ideally a dry intubation is not to be done. When I was abroad, the nurses would not actually let you intubate the baby without pre-medication. And what the American Academy says, that you give fentanyl, that should be okay. You may add midazolam to it. You can give succinylcholine if your intubation skills are good.
Okay. What is your take, Amit? What do you think?
I frankly, I would do that only in a big baby, say meconium aspiration, because normally all such babies whom we are intubating, they are hypoxic by the time we are intubating them, and this acute worsening situation most often, they are sort of sedated just by hypoxia itself. So with our system in which a fentanyl, number of nurses, fentanyl, midazolam may not be prepared the time, you may not have time or to give these pre-medications. We normally don't give it. We give that in specific situations. If we are semi-electively changing a tube in a big baby with meconium aspiration or something, and or severe PPHN is there, then we don't want to struggle intubating with this baby. Small preterms already toxic, we don't give it as a protocol.
So there is one more thing. Many times you said the point of care ultrasonography and functional care does help. I recently had a baby. He was on ventilator. He seems to be improving. He suddenly deteriorated. So when he came down, I was called in. I just went in there. I did all the procedure that you did. Even X-ray was done. X-ray appeared to be okay. There was nothing pneumothorax or something of that sort. And the ABG was very bad. So I just got out of the echocardiogram and there was pericardial effusion in it. And on this bedside only you could read 45 ml of the fluid and we can see the baby improving. So I think if that had not been there, probably would have lost
Echo ultrasound should be there with you.
IVH maybe suddenly deteriorates, you don't know what has happened. It takes hardly 1 or 2 minutes.
A question from Dr. Sunit Pathak from Agra. A baby suddenly start gasping on ventilator. You do everything, but he continue gasping. What could be reason?
Sir, most often it is secondary to severe hypoxemia. You will not find that in any other condition. And these are agonal gasps which are there. And these are signs of this baby having a, heading towards death or a brain death situation. So it's a bad prognostic marker, having gasps on ventilator. I would say I have never seen such gasps in a non-asphyxiated baby. Only this can happen if you have a blocked tube as well. Yeah. So if you rule out a blocked tube, then most often it would be because of a bad brain which is there. And this brain will continue to... And that would be my take. So you probably require more sedation, more anti-epileptic. We often deal with, say, Phenobarb, usko dena padta hai kai baar, ya levetiracetam dete hain. Often these could be a seizure as well. If you have a continuous EEG monitoring, then adding that may help. Obviously, you need to remove ET block as a cause of the gasp which is there. Higher rates, if you have to try out different things, so higher rates could be one strategy, checking your tube for blockade, ruling out how bad the brain is. I would go in these steps.
Many times a little bit of more support in terms of more pressure or more TI, it helps. Because there is shortness of gasping, is short of breath. He's not able to breathe in properly. At times, just to increase the little bit of TI and increase the pressure support. Maybe you are able to tide over the gasping. One question can I ask, Dr. Ashish?
Sure.
See, we are using humidifiers, okay. There are also small humidifiers. It is very common in adults to use HME filters. HME is one which you attach to the endotracheal tube. How good are these for the neonates?
I think they increase the dead space and we don't use it. I don't know.
Small ones are available, yeah? The small ones are also available.
I have not used it.
Surgical and other
when earlier people came and showed me, I felt that will only increase the
Then that's
blood
good.
space, and I do not know how it changes the resistance of the circuits. We don't use.
Okay. ठीक है.
Amit, your comment on HM.
No, the HME filter we don't use.
Not-
It
not-
is used in
not-
adults.
not-
Basically,
I-
though it is said that those who use humidifier, they don't need HME filters, and it is very commonly used in adults because they don't use humidifiers. And I have not seen any unit specifically.
No use in newborn, I think.
Yeah.
And how do you nebulize a baby on a ventilator?
We should not try. ये बहुत गलत स्ट्रेटेजी रहती है कि हर चीज पे नेबुलाइजेशन अंदर घुसाना, बीपीडी या कुछ ऐसी जो हम बच्चे नॉर्मली जो इस वेंटिलेशन वर्कशॉप में हैं वो कोई ज्यादा बीपीडी नहीं डील कर रहे होंगे. दे आर नॉट डीलिंग विद वेरी स्मॉल बेबीज. एंड नेबुलाइजेशन इज ना एचएमडी में जरूरत है, ना एमएएस में जरूरत है, ना निमोनिया में जरूरत है, ना निमोथोरेक्स में जरूरत है. तो नेबुलाइजेशन इज अ प्रोसीजर जो हमें नहीं करना चाहिए इन स्मॉल बेबीज. मैं तो यही एक मैसेज.
So we have got a question from Dr. Akhilesh. How do you do oral care in a ventilator intubated baby?
Dr. Ashish, nursing care.
Oral care in a ventilated baby.
Nursing care.
Dr. Akhilesh.
You can clean all the secretions that are around the mouth, and even inside the mouth, cleaning can be done by the nurses.
Can we use a betadine swab or something? Oral
No,
betadine?
no.
No, we cannot use them. Okay.
Betadine can get absorbed, and actually these babies can have hypothyroidism. So betadine is not something that we liberally use in small babies.
Okay. Right, sir. So is there any more
Question for Amit. Yes. According to occurrence 1, 2, 3, 4, rapid deterioration in ventilated.
Can you give the
Most
correct
frequent
answer now?
then, this is from Vivek.
Yeah.
Most common then second, then third, then fourth.
आदमी मुझे समझ में नहीं आया क्वेश्चन. मुझे आवाज में
ये न्यूमोथोरेक्स वगैरह वगैरह जो भी है, चोक्ड, सबसे फ्रीक्वेंट क्या होता है अपनी प्रैक्टिस में, उसके बाद क्या होता है, उसके बाद क्या होता है?
सर एक्चुअली इसका आंसर ये नहीं है कि सबसे कॉमन प्रैक्टिस में क्या है. ओनली एक सिनेरियो में सबसे कॉमन प्रैक्टिस में क्या है ये कहा जा सकता है कि अगर किसी बच्चे को रिससिटेशन होके आ रखा है, वो वर्सन हो रहा है, तो क्या कॉमन होगा. एक प्रीटर्म बेबी जिसको डायरेक्ट अभी हमने सीपैप पे लिया है उसमें क्या कॉमन होगा. बट टू से दैट ऑफ ऑल 100 बेबीज हु हैव वर्सेंड, आई वुड से दैट ट्यूब का हटना वहां से दैट इज मोस्ट कॉमन. ईटी ट्यूब से वो 2 ट्यूब निकलती हैं, उनमें से एक ट्यूब निकल जाएगी. ह्यूमिडिफायर में कुछ किसी ने किया, ह्यूमिडिफायर चेंज किया, उसके में वो प्रॉपर कनेक्ट नहीं किया. तो ये जो लोकल ट्यूबिंग रिलेटेड कॉजेज हैं, आई वुड प्लेस देम एज नंबर 1 कॉज ऑफ अ डिटेरियोरेटिंग बेबी. तो सिंपल थिंग्स भाई, पावर पॉइंट हट जाना. आई हैव सीन अ बेबी हु वाज हैविंग 100% सैचुरेशन, मेरे सामने कोलैप्स हो गया. मैं कहा इससे क्या हो गया, ये कैसे कोलैप्स हो गया. इट वाज अ बिगर बेबी, 6 month old बेबी. तो उसका पावर पॉइंट वेंटिलेटर का हटा दिया.
डॉक्टर आशीष, आपके लिए एट ए टाइम हाउ मेनी लाइंस वन कैन पुट ऑन ए न्यूबॉर्न? वो मोर बन जाता है सर बहुत सारी लाइन से. कितनी तक आईवी लाइन की आप परमिशन देते हो?
आईवी लाइन कितनी सारी किस लिए चाहिए? As I said at the outset, one could put in an umbilical line. It can have more than 1 outlets. It can be used for fluids. It can be used for certain infusions. And maybe you have a separate peripheral cannula.
लिपिड देना है, आइनोट्रोप देने हैं.
वही कह रहा हूँ सर, इनिशियली एक लाइन umbilical डाल देनी चाहिए, and you have 1 peripheral line. If you need, maybe at max you may need another one, पर multiple तो जरूरत पड़ती नहीं. And at the earliest you replace the umbilical line after 7 days, 10 days to a PICC line if you have the expertise to do that. This is precisely why we should not have multiple pricks. That at the outset, a small baby, you put umbilical line, it saves you so many other cannulas. You have maybe 1 peripheral line, so that you don't break into that central line very frequently.
Dr. Anand Prakash, can I ask you one more thing? How do you reduce pain in NICU? How do you reduce pain in NICU in routine in the NICU ventilated?
Routine ventilated babies do not require infusions, as I said earlier. The evidence says it is not required. For procedures like heel prick, you can have a dummy or a soother which can be dipped in sucrose. You can place sucrose in the mouth before heel pricks. These things can be done.
Some of the babies seem to moving around while being on ventilators. You have seen many babies that just seem to moving around. They're really afraid they will extubate or cause IVH or something of that
See,
sort.
these again, there could be babies who are following, who have HIE, who have many abnormal movements, and the babies with meconium who may require sedation, who may require fentanyl sort of a thing, PPHN, and maybe MAS. These babies may require a fentanyl infusion, which is okay.
Which water one should use for humidifier? The distilled water or packed water? What one should use for?
Distilled water, number 1. Second is RO water. और कुछ नहीं मिल रहा तो boiled water.
एक अमित आपने वो बताया था 100% सैचुरेशन दिख रहा है लेकिन बच्चा रीजन क्या है? डॉक्टर उषा ने पूछा है.
तो रेयर सिचुएशंस हैं ये. मतलब मुझे 20-25 साल में एक बच्चा मिला और सब उसी के ऊपर क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे. बट दैट उससे मुझे कम से कम 10 लाख रुपए का फायदा हुआ. और 10 लाख का फायदा मुझे इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि मैंने अपने सारे मॉनिटर्स अपग्रेड कर दिए फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. सो इसलिए I will never forget that. I always quote that, and I pressurize the company that I will send this video, make this viral at everywhere. Nobody will buy your monitor ever in India, and you need to change it. And the good thing was they stopped selling that. G जैसी company थी, they stopped selling that monitor for neonates. They said कि okay sir, we will sell it only in adults. So even big companies, they can do catastrophic things. You just have to keep your mind open, and it's an ongoing process. कोई भी आज आप कोविड के लिए देख रहे हो गाउन, हर रोज एक नया गाउन है. कौन सा गाउन लो आपको पता नहीं. ऐसी हर रोज एक नया वेंटिलेटर है, हर रोज एक नया मॉनिटर है. वो कहेगा सर आपको ये 50 में मिला तो मैं 45 में दे रहा हूँ, 45 में मिला तो मैं 40 में दे रहा हूँ, 40 में मैं 35 में दे रहा हूँ. तो आप इस ट्रैप में फंस जाते. And even big companies, they tend to trap you. So,
can I ask you a question? For many times this happens, if the babies is shifted to you, he's in emergency, newborn baby, mother is awaiting, maybe she may be COVID positive, she may not be COVID positive, the test is awaited. So how do you deal with that particular baby?
No, sir, don't. COVID के ऊपर अभी हमें question नहीं रखना चाहिए. It's not on COVID, let's leave it.
I think most of the
common scenario आजकल होता जा रहा है ना.
अरे इसका अलग टॉपिक. हम 19th को I am doing a very big panel discussion with myself, Dr. Deepak Chawla, Dr. Sushma Nangia, Dr. Sanjay Wazir on perinatal management of babies born with suspect or proven COVID mothers. So I will send a link to all. It will be a wonderful panel discussion for everybody to join in, and that will be good.
So you agree it is a very hot topic?
It's a definitely hottest topic.
Yeah. So nobody misses that webinar. Okay.
Yes.
So Amit, you and Dr. Ashish, you will be on 2 WhatsApp group for next 24 hours. So you have so many questions on that group. So please do some favor for participants.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So over to Sanjeev now for closing remark.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. Thank you, Dr. Amit. Very nice talks. Very interesting, made very interesting and very practical. Useful to, I'm sure every participant must be benefited. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ravi Bose.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Vinay, something.
Very healthy session, very good discussions. Many good points come out of it. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
I must announce next day's program.
Yes. Thanks very much, doctors. Thank you, Dr. Amit, Dr. Ashish for excellent presentation. Thank you, Dr. Ravi, Dr. Piali for excellent moderation. We will meet again tomorrow at same time, 8:30. And please do not miss that session. After that, we will send you end-line evaluation forms on the WhatsApp group that is mandatory to fill. If you need a certificate, then that is something which is mandatory to fill. There are some announcements also which will happen tomorrow, so please do not miss tomorrow's session. Thank you everyone again for joining us. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye, sir.
Bye bye.
Good night, sir.